Are we rocking and rolling?
We're gonna go get some Brussels sprouts and then do a little quick harvest of parsley. Well, I started working on nonprofit farms. So there was more time for like education about like, soil health and why we do things certain ways. And then when I moved to Minnesota, I worked on my first, that was my first production farm.
Okay, wow.
It was 120 acres, owned by a food co-op in Minneapolis. My first certified organic farm. And I think that's not where I got, I was like always focused on being fast, but we had to like write down the time it took to harvest like cases and cases of kale. And I don't know if that was because we were like certified or there was so much record keeping. And then I was like, oh, record keeping is like so important. I like this. Jordan and I, like, when we plant something that has like the broccoli and cauliflower, for instance, has a lot of different varieties. So we made a map for ourselves. And I would make a map of like the tomatoes, for instance, to like know where the different varieties are.
Yeah. Do you find it slows down your work where it's a hindrance, or do you find it to be more helpful?
I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is dumb. This is not like, this feels inefficient. But then when I think about it, I'm like, it will help later. It's like, why didn't this germinate? Or like, how many seeds did I put in here? Like for beets, we do like 2 to 3 seeds per cell when we seed them because germination is funky. And then it's like, could we go to 1 seed per cell? Like, is it worth it?
And those small efficiencies can really add up.
Yeah, and I think like, if I had my own farm, I would definitely like have really thorough harvest records and like transplanting records, and like, like where things are and when we're gonna start harvesting.
Yeah,
but I just haven't had the opportunity or autonomy to create my own record keeping system or crop plan. So
yeah,
it's easy for that, like the importance of that to fade in and out if I'm just working on a farm.
Yeah. Do you anticipate eventually owning your own farm?
I know it's controversial, but I don't think that small farms are like profitable. So unless I were to do it in a collective way, like in a community or something, like with multiple partners, I definitely don't see myself having my own farm. I have a lot of student debt, so that doesn't seem like super financially wise. I would like to have a homestead at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, unless like I like come into like millions of dollars, then I might have my own farm.
Yeah. The financial realities are often glossed over in any farming related content.
Yeah.
And we don't want to we want people to be aware of how challenging it is and how much our system is working against a small scale farmer.
Yeah. And I think like there's like also this idea, sometimes people even have rules like for markets or like to identify as a farmer, you like can't have an off-farm job or you have to derive like at least 50% of your income from the farm.
Wow.
But I think that the reality for a lot of small farms and small farmers is that they do have an off-farm job and income, and that like proves that like you can't necessarily make a living on farming alone.
What do you think is the biggest roadblock financially? Is it, because I know that there's some small advocacy organizations that are looking for like student loan debt forgiveness and stuff. Do you think if you didn't have that, it would be more realistic, or even then?
I think even then I still might be like pretty deterred from the financial burden.
Mm-hmm.
I think land access for Black, Indigenous, people of color farmers, like the fact that we don't have reparations and land access for them makes it really hard to have a small farm. Like people's income in this country, and like the way that we devalue farm workers makes that like another hindrance. I think like someone like me, I think about a lot like how I'm so privileged to be in this position to like choose a life where I'm making a low income, because that's so different from somebody who is a migrant farm laborer or an H-2A worker, and they like need to do the work to survive, and I'm doing this because and not that they're not passionate about it, but I think that there's a difference because I'm like fully consenting and like making this choice on my own. But at the same time, I'm like also choosing not to like work for a corporation where I could like make a lot more money, but I don't want to support the like evil work that they're doing. So it's like there's a lot of tension for me between so many things, and really I'm just like I feel myself here. I feel who I am. Like I feel like I can be who I am and be like more self-actualized as a farmer, but I do like hold all the nuances of like the privilege of being in this position. And what I really appreciate about working here is that I'm paid really well, and I mean, this is the most money I've ever made working on a farm. And in many ways, I feel like I can have more of a real life, and I haven't felt that before farming, because farming becomes your life, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Be careful.